following program does not necessarily represent the views and opinions of Reality Radio 101, its advertisers and sponsors, or its listening audience. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to the Liquid Green Health Show with your hosts Fred and Janet Cox right here on Reality Radio 101. To contact us live right now, send us an email. Our email address is liquidgreenhealthshow@gmail.com. And now, right to your hosts of the Liquid Green Health Show, Fred and Janet Cox.
And good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. It's another beautiful Sunday afternoon, a little bit on the
it's fall
coolish side. Yeah, it's that
fall.
time of the year when, things are going to start dipping and we're going to be going into a very, very weird period, but
the beautiful days of summer are waning.
Yeah.
Have waned, rather.
Have waned. Yes, we're now into the fall season. And this is September the 24th, folks. It's 5:30 p.m. Good afternoon to our listeners and viewers across Canada, the United States, and around the world. We are the Coxes. And once again, we want to thank you for allowing us into your private space. Every Sunday, as you know, we're here with you and we're offering tips in a kind of a edutainment format. Mm-hmm. And it is all designed to stimulate the mind and help bring us one step closer to living a healthier lifestyle. You can catch this broadcast a little later on YouTube or on Spotify. Just type in Liquid Green Health Show and give us your likes, give us your comments, and everything that's to boost the algorithms for us.
We need, especially on the YouTube. I know most of our listeners, as we say all the time, really comes through Reality Radio 101, internet radio. But we do post on, and we are live on YouTube.
Yes.
And we just need a few more. I think we need about
take us over that number. Yeah.
More subscriptions to reach the $1,000 subscription mark.
Not $1,000 subscribers, thousand.
I'm always
You're always
thinking
thinking money, man.
Yeah. 1,000 person subscription, right?
Right. So we need that.
That will allow YouTube to do different things.
Yes. With us.
Right.
So we need that, folks. Just go and, subscribe. It's going to help us a lot. Okay. So this is the Liquid Green Health Show, and this is our fun time. And today we have a very exciting topic we're going to be broaching. But before that, you want to talk about
the weekend. We were away for 3 days apart, and I was in Toronto for a little mini retreat with about 19 other women of all races. And what a fun time it was. Food was great. The ambience was good. And we just talked. And what do women talk about when they get together?
Everything
male, right?
Everything that has to do with male. Yeah.
But we talk about our kids, the family. It's amazing. I really believe that if women ruled the world,
but they do,
we'll just talk things through, and no wars, no bombs, no need for nuclear. What a great world it would be.
But they do behind the scene. We just don't give you the opportunity to voice it. That's all.
Oh dear.
Right.
But I'm talking about the big countries.
Yeah.
The big countries where major decisions are made, Anyway, it was a great weekend, but it's good to be back, and you look really nice today.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Well,
yeah.
We have, as I said earlier, we have a very, very, very informative show. Assume that we are going to be broaching a subject that we don't always, broach because of the nature of our show. But today we're going to kind of mix a little bit of spirituality, a little bit of psychology, and we're going to bring it into this whole topic about fall or
Yes.
autumn,
Right.
right? Because you can't discuss fall or winter or autumn. Fall, autumn, or winter is the same thing, right?
Mhm.
Winter or
No,
I
winter
mean,
is not the
fall or
same.
autumn is the
Right,
same thing.
Mhm.
And you can't discuss fall or winter or any of the seasons without broaching some kind of spiritual aspect to it,
Right.
right?
I agree. I agree.
Okay. So
Yeah. But it's also health related
yeah.
because I mean, we do a health show and we try to make everything health related.
Mhm.
And when we are talking about the change in seasons, we're definitely going to be talking about SAD, the
Yes.
seasonal affective disorder.
I never heard
And-
about that until
and
we
as
started doing this
you know,
research. Yeah.
Whenever they give something a name,
Mhm.
like a disorder,
It's a disease.
right?
They're gonna
Then you know they're gonna find a
medication for it, man.
And apparently there are medications to
Yeah.
to meet to manage
Yeah.
SAD.
But this is a period, honestly, that it causes a lot of disruption in your emotion. It has a
Mhm.
lot of physical repercussions as well.
Yeah.
Why it happens, I don't really know. But
Well, it's scientific and it is spiritual.
mhm.
So tell us about the science of it. What exactly happens with the fall equinox? You want to start?
Yeah, before we get into that,
Mhm.
this is some parts of the world they refer to it as the autumn season.
Mhm.
Here in North America, it's the fall season, and it happens twice yearly, right? So sorry, not the autumn season,
The equinoxes, the
equinox,
changes,
yes.
right? Yeah.
This is the fall or autumn equinox,
Yes.
and equinoxes happens twice a year.
And on the other side of the world, they're having
It's going to be spring,
right?
yes.
Like in
While
Australia
we're and
Yeah.
Argentina and
Mhm.
those places. So while we're experiencing, cool and dark weather, they're going to be experiencing a spring warming of the climates and stuff like that.
Sure, and
All
we,
right,
we
and-
see it mostly in the northern latitudes, right? And the more northern
In the northern
latitudes you go,
latitudes,
the higher you go,
yeah, it gets
the more you
darker,
will see,
right?
right?
It gets
Oh.
darker,
Mhm.
and nights become longer, days are shorter,
Shorter.
nights are longer, right? And this is something that happens in this celestial equator,
Okay.
right? And
Mhm.
that, for just a brief explanation, is an imaginary
Mhm.
plane up there where the planes of the terrestrial equator, they intersect with
Mhm.
the celestial sphere.
Okay. Mhm.
And because it is the distance is it's equidistance
From the pole.
from the poles,
Okay, cool.
right?
Mhm.
And this is when the sun lines lies in the plane,
Mhm.
and it crosses that line, that imaginary line. And when it does that on that particular day, which happens around September
Mhm.
21 to September 24, depends on the year, right? When it happens, it projects equal daylight
Yeah.
all around.
And I think that's exactly what the word equinox means,
Yes,
right?
equi means
Mhm.
equal.
Yeah.
It's derives from Latin. Equi
Mhm.
means equal, nox means
Night.
night, right?
Mhm.
And so we have a season that is sandwiched between the hot summer months and the cold, harsh winter months.
So what about people in the Caribbean who are the equatorial countries that they do get some variations?
They get some
but
variation.
certainly it's nothing.
Not
We
as
certainly
severe.
don't have a fall.
No.
Although you can tell a lot of Jamaicans.
The weather changes. You
That's
could get the cooler breeze, right?
Yeah.
That's coming through.
Right. But you can't tell a lot of
You get a lot of
Jamaicans.
rain.
Listen, let me talk.
Yeah.
When you go to the beach, and I've been in a taxi and the guy said, look at all these people going to the beach
In the winter.
in the winter. And this is like in March in Jamaica. Trust me, folks, it's not winter. It's nice and warm and probably about 80 degrees.
Yeah, but to them it's chilly, because I'm certain there's some times when they'll get that cool
In
wind.
the hills, in the mountains, you'll see people in the woodies in Falmouth. I don't know why,
Mhm.
but anyway, yeah.
But as we said, for us here is the beginning of the cooling season, and for in the southern hemisphere, it's the beginning of the hot season.
Right.
So when we have winter here, Australia has summer, and vice versa.
So,
right?
so at this point, I would like to just briefly talk about SAD.
Mhm.
And as I said, it's the seasonal affective disorder. And it's a form of depression.
Okay.
It's a mild
But
form of depression.
Okay, before you get into that,
Yeah.
let me just touch on some historical facts here.
Okay.
The in the northern hemisphere, the new year was always celebrated in March,
Okay.
right?
Right.
In the southern hemisphere, now is the true time of the new year for them, right? But what happened during the reign of Julius Caesar, the
he's
Roman emperor?
Everything.
He's the one that changed everything around 4 to 6 BC.
Yeah.
He changed everything because he wanted to, it's ego, of course, and he wanted to recognize, I think there was a god that's called Janus,
Yes.
right?
I've heard.
And so this was a two-faced god that looks backwards in one time of the year and look forward in the new year. So he wanted to recognize that god and change the whole thing. And that's why from then, in the Western Hemisphere, the year, rather New Year's Day, is celebrated on January 1st,
Right.
which has absolutely nothing to do with
The science of the world.
the science and
right.
spirituality and the technical workings of the universe. It has nothing to do with that. And also, because of that change, people started mocking anyone that was still celebrating the New Year in March, and that's how All Fools Day came around. Right. So that's just a little, fact on the
trivia.
Yeah, a little trivia on the whole equinox stuff thing. Right. So go ahead.
Yeah, so what I wanted to say is because of the health aspect, what we know is that this is something that's treatable. And folks who are bipolar, people who suffer from mood disorders, they're more seriously affected by SAD. And it's funny, I just thought of it, the acronym SAD, just like
it is sad indeed, because we're going into a dark period.
But just like the American diet.
Oh yeah,
right. It's the same acronym. But and apparently there's a lot of people. We think it's nothing. We don't even think of these things.
Yeah.
But globally, there's 65 million people. In some statistics I got, 65 million people who are affected by SAD. All right, and of course you see it more as you move towards the poles, right? And 85% of people who has this mood disorder, it gets much, much worse after the fall equinox. And as it starts in the fall, and
it goes right through into winter.
Right through to the winter. And not only that, it changes when the springtime comes. There still is this SAD, but it flips and it's different. And people become so vibrant and they're so energetic.
Because of that sudden surge of energy.
And
it's too strong for some people to handle.
That's right. And believe it or not, that's when suicide rate is at its highest.
In the spring?
I couldn't believe that. I thought it would have been in the fall.
No, I thought, going into to this dark period.
Yeah.
Right. And for those of you folks who are wondering why I'm wearing black today, it signifies that, we're going into a dark period. And listen, it's not just.
And that's why I'm wearing my fall colors.
Yeah, because of the changes. Right. Now, it's not just humans that are affected. This has a universal effect on every living thing, plants, animals, everything. At this time of the year, you can find animals are preparing for the winter. They're gathering a lot of food because they know during winter it's going to be a shortage of food. They can't come out in many cases. Birds are beginning to, start migrating, and they prepare for that by molting. They change their feathers. They grow new feathers so that they can move through the air much easier, less stress. Plants, they stop growing. They become dormant. trees shed their leaves starts to fall off because
Absolutely.
trees become greedy. They start conserving energy.
Yeah.
And
Just
by
like the bears,
right,
right?
and by doing that, the leaves are, they don't get any food, so they have to, and that's just putting it in layman terms.
Okay.
That's basically what it is,
But
right?
guess what? There is a term for that.
Yeah.
And that is the whole aspect of the circadian rhythm,
Okay.
because it affects every living being.
Mhm.
We have a 24-hour cycle.
Right.
It is physiological in nature,
Mhm.
and it's a process that's in every living being.
Yeah.
Right? And it's a built-in mechanism, but it can be affected by things outside of us, by
Okay.
the external stimuli.
Mhm.
So the fact, all the things you just read,
Mhm.
the trees conserving,
Yeah.
that's their circadian rhythm,
Okay.
and it's built in.
Mhm.
So,
It's nature at work.
and it depends on what type of tree,
Right.
right? Is
It's
it
not going to have an
deciduous?
evergreen
Is
tree.
it
Right. It's
evergreen?
not going to have
Correct.
an.
The animals, as you mentioned, that go into hibernation,
Yeah.
that is their circadian rhythm,
Okay.
right? And so for us, this circadian rhythm is so important. And as the days, this is why SAD becomes important,
Okay.
because our rhythm changes
Yeah.
because of the external stimuli.
Okay.
All right.
Mhm.
And so what happens is it affects our immune system.
Everything.
It
Yes.
affects our sleep patterns.
Yeah.
It affects how we eat.
Mhm.
It affects how much exercise we get.
Right.
And all of those things will have an effect as we change, as the seasons change.
Mhm.
We're like the bears, we hibernate. We spend more time inside,
Right.
more time on the sofa.
Mhm.
Me, more time on Netflix.
Mhm. Very much so. So this is why
So-
during this period, we as humans have to consume more vitamin D.
And vitamin D is one of the things, our show that we sent out, we said we're going to talk about things that we can do to combat
Yeah.
the feeling of stress and that disorder that we go through during these months. And vitamin D it's actually on the top of the list. You should really be checking with your doctor, because vitamin D, I mean, it's in milk, fortified milk, it's in so much of the food that's they've put it in a lot of foods, right? But naturally, what is happening is our skin, the UV rays
Mhm.
actually get less
Yes.
as the days get shorter.
Yeah.
And as the nights get,
Especially
the nights are longer.
especially in the northern climate.
And as the UV rays get less, then our bodies, through our skin, we're not as able, the ability to process and to convert into vitamin D is not as effective. And that's why we have to supplement. But to talk about vitamin D, oh my goodness, we could do a whole show on that. But we really need to check with your doctor and find out what your vitamin levels are. And there is a difference, as we know, we've done a lot of work on vitamin D,
Mhm.
right? Whether you're a Black person with melanin that's blocking the UV rays. And for us as Black people in the colder countries, we're
You need a lot of vitamin D. Yeah.
susceptible. So we're not needing to take 1,000 IUs, international units,
Minimum 5,000.
5,000
Minimum.
units.
And if you have
minimum.
any
Right.
health conditions, you need to up it.
Take more.
Right. So
Right.
we'll do that in another show.
Okay.
Another thing that happens during this time is a lot of snow or rain, depending on where you are. Right. And ancient scriptures,
Mhm.
ancient African mythology equates that to the story of
The Kemetic story.
Asar and Aset. That's the
Yeah.
Kemetic spiritual. And
Yeah.
and out of that
Mhm.
came just about every religious script that you can think of.
Right. That
Right?
was the beginning.
That was the
of
beginning of it
Mhm.
all. And the whole thing is this represents fall season is a shift in the seasons, is a shift in energy that moves from Geb to Osset. Right? That is a Kemetic
Mhm.
story.
Yes.
Right? Geb to Osset, or Virgo to Libra,
Correct.
because we're moving from Virgo to Libra.
Yes, we're saying goodbye to Libra. That's a Septemberites.
Right. And we're going into
And
Virgo.
moving on to
And that is why, based on that story is repeated in many cultures,
correct.
right? In the European cultures specifically, and I'm mentioning that because we were taught this in school, the Shakespearean story, Romeo and Juliet, is a direct regurgitation of the Set and Osset story.
Yes.
Right? Sorry, Osset and Asar story. It's a direct regurgitation of that.
Right.
And in the original story, Osset lost her husband, right? And she, shed a lot of tears, right? And those tears is what
represents
the rain is what the rain and the snow that you get during that time is the representation of that story. Right. And because she lost her husband, that separation, the long period of separation, it goes into a dark period.
Correct. And that's the darker.
And that's the longer it is, the darker the story gets. And so that whole story is, originally an African story.
To explain what happens astrologically, because it's all about astrology, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all about astrology. That's basically what it is. And so that long darkness that we are going to be experiencing, it's a time when you really should be using it for reflection. You should be using it for rejuvenation and spiritual alignment.
Because we all have a darker side.
All of us.
Everybody has we have a side that we need to pay attention to.
Yes.
And then during this period, it's good to actually start with meditations.
Yeah.
And you don't need to be in a group. You can be alone, because it's a time for quiet self-reflection. When you try to heal, the whole point about going into yourself, trying to discover who you are, trying to release and let go and let God, right?
Yes.
And it's a time basically for healing.
It is. And but the modern world looks at it, everything is turned upside down. Right.
Okay.
There are a lot of festivals that are going to be happening at this time of the year. Nothing wrong with that, because this is a time for harvest and stuff. You have Thanksgiving that's coming up. You have pumpkin season.
Halloween.
I call it pumpkin season, right? But it's Halloween time.
Yeah.
Right. That's going to be coming up. So you're going to have a lot of those cultural festivals. But the underlying story behind it all, it has some kind of astrological or spiritual connection, which it's not being taught, right? Some people know, and those that know will do what is supposed to be done. Others will just follow through and it's Halloween, we're going to send the kids out, we're going to have candy. It's a big celebration from a commercial standpoint.
I know. And another thing, with another way in which the sad affects people, even though we talk about Thanksgiving and it's a time for families to come together and celebrate and eat and rejoice and have the big spread, it brings so much anxiety.
It does.
Because it's like, which family are we going to? It's for some people, even though it's supposed to be fun, it's just another layer of anxiety.
It could be very depressing.
And depression.
Yeah, very, very depressing.
And for those people who don't have families, and it's just like Christmas, where you spend the time alone and introverted.
Yes.
Right.
And
so,
this, how I look at this, retrograde, right? When Mercury goes into retrograde. And there's a lot of things, sayings that when Mercury is in retrograde, it affects electronic devices and cars, and you shouldn't do any business contracts and all sorts of stuff. But retrograde really is a time when you should stop what you're doing and do some reflection.
Yes.
Right? Take some time out and look at where your life is, where you want to go, and how you can improve on what's going on. And that's what this period is.
Correct.
It's a longer period where, it's really a period of darkness, sadness, funerary, Because
yes.
that's the whole story.
And
That's the whole comedic story. It's a funeral story, right? Because she lost her husband. Her husband is gone. She
But
doesn't know
they're
where
going
to find.
to resurrect him. They're going to
Precisely.
come back together,
Right.
and spring will come.
And spring will
And it
come
will
and
be
it's
a
going to be
rebirth.
rejoicing and
Mhm.
stuff like that. But now, and that is the reason why, because there's not a lot of sunlight,
Mhm.
right? That is why you have so much depression.
And guess what?
Right.
There's another name for it.
Mhm.
For people who study the mystical elements, the tarot cards,
Yes.
they also call it the hermit energy.
Yeah, because you become a
Because
hermit. That's what it is.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so during this time, when you're in that hermit mode, that is where you should really try and get back to doing the things you really like to do. Sometimes
Yes.
it might be something artistic,
Yeah.
right? And it's a time when you need to, we said it before, stop
Yes.
and think
Stop and
and
think.
reflect.
Yes.
And
I call it the set point. Go back
a
to
reset
that. Go
point.
back to that set point.
Right. Okay.
Try to think of or remember what it is that made you happy at a specific time.
And try to
and
remove the distractions from your life.
Yes.
So does that mean I have to try and get rid of you?
Yeah, I need to get rid of you too. I need to get I need to get rid of you.
Right.
Right. But that's what this fall says. Understanding what fall is, embrace it, because you cannot avoid it unless you die.
Right.
You can't avoid it. Understand what it is, embrace, the nuances of fall. You're going to have a lot of new schedules, new jobs, new schools,
Yes.
fresh assignments. All that is going to be coming up.
And stress.
Excitement.
We talked about the kids going back to school. And
Yeah.
the stress related with that. Teachers who don't want to go back.
Right.
So it's
all that is going to be coming up. But
such a plethora of emotions. But you know what? What's your favorite season?
I think I'll have to say Christmas.
Christmas is
Yeah.
not a season.
No, well,
but what's your favorite
Doing-
season?
it will have to be summer.
Summer.
Yeah, it will have to be summer.
Summer's everybody's favorite
It will
season.
have to be summer.
Gary, Mike, what's your favorite season?
My favorite season, this is Gary, is fall.
Fall, really?
Yeah.
Why?
Yes.
Why?
I like the color changes, and the weather for me is perfect, where it's just light jacket weather. It's not too hot, not too cold.
But so is spring. So what's the difference?
Well, I like the colors.
colors.
Better
There are more colors in the fall.
in the fall. There
Spring
are,
is
but
when the colors are coming in.
Spring is new
The
life.
vibrance,
The
right?
vibrance of
Yeah.
life is coming back.
What about
well,
you?
if spring and fall were, as you say, close, we'd only have 3 seasons.
Correct, right?
Yes,
Because they're
yes.
so similar,
Yeah.
right? What about you, Mike? Do you have a favorite?
I think for me, later summer and fall, like Gary.
Yeah.
That's because later in the summer it's not quite as hot.
Mhm.
The atmosphere is a lot drier. Everything's dried out the ground wise, and
Mhm.
that's kind of what I like.
Would you believe our son, Kofi? Do you know what his favorite season is?
Probably winter.
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 I have
Winter.
no idea why a young Black man thinks winter is the favorite
He
season.
was born here.
He was born here. He
born
loves
here.
hockey and the cold. He doesn't like hot.
And for me, coming from South America, Caribbean culture and everything, it has to be summer because of the
Swimming,
liveliness, Yeah. I don't know about the skydiving thing, but
Oh dear.
it has to be summer for me.
You know what? We should check to see if we have any emails. I don't know. Do we have any emails?
Yeah,
What's your thought? And let me check.
Yeah, it has to be summer for me because that's when everything happens. All the festivals and the entertainment and everything. It's the flying of kites, depending on where you're from.
Mine is
Going on the beach is nice and warm. So
mine is hands down summer. No question.
Yeah.
No ifs, ands, or but. What I would love living in Canada if we had
longer summers.
9 months of or 6 months of summer,
Mhm.
and then the other 6 months we have 2 months for fall, 2 months for spring. What is that? 10, and then 2 months of winter.
Well,
I
listen,
think we'd have a perfect
I'll tell you what I'll do.
world
I'll tell you what I'll do. I have a very close connection.
to the Almighty.
Yeah.
To
And
the divine.
I'll put in a request for you.
Okay,
Okay.
great.
So let's go to some email. We have one from Bill, and Bill is asking, how is she?
How is Janet?
How is Janet doing from her ordeal last week? Ha, we love you folks.
But guess what, Bill? It was not an ordeal. It was so much fun. That's the last word I would use. But although he does have it in
quotation marks.
So
I'm here, Tammy. Tammy is saying, is Janet now going to bungee jump?
guess what, Tammy? Absolutely not.
I wouldn't
No
touch
bungee
that.
jumping here.
I would, honestly, I would prefer to do the skydiving
Yeah.
than do a bungee jump.
But
Not me.
next on my list is going to be, I'm going to learn to scuba dive. Right? Are you coming to do that? Yes.
I'm not a water, no.
At least it can be any weight.
Listen,
You don't have to lose 8 pounds.
listen. I'm from the Caribbean and I'm a black man.
So
I love
you're
land.
going to no, but
I
you're going,
love land.
where in the world has better reefs for you to explore
It
with
doesn't matter.
scuba diving than some of the Caribbean?
I still love land.
Yeah.
Tom
Anyway.
says, Cox's, this time of the year is a very depressing time for millions of people in their lives. Your show will help them.
Yay, I'm going to have a vote for that. And he says, thanks. And you know what?
Thank you too.
Fantastic. Good.
And Ken says, hey, Cox's, yes, with the winter approaching and all the upcoming holidays, we need some advice on how to remain sane. Skydiving, maybe? Ha. Until later.
No, one of the big holidays is the US Thanksgiving
Yes.
and what follows, not the Thanksgiving per se, although that's the busiest time for travel,
Mhm.
but it's the insanity of it's Black Friday, right?
Yes. It's commercialized.
Just
It's huge commercialism.
and they just buy everything.
Huge
And most people
commercialism.
get the Christmas shopping done
Yes.
by the time it's Black Friday.
And
But
you
as
know,
people, I think we find a way to just get excited and just stress out about everything.
that's the power of marketing. It drives you crazy to get, want, and negate the spiritual aspect of life. And that's what this season is all about. It's not just about commercial. It's not just about revelry and stuff and have.
Right.
It's a period where, as we mentioned earlier, it's a time for reflection. It's
And
a time for,
giving
it's a time for realignment. Realign yourself with that cosmic energy, because it's all about energy and realignment.
And the women I talked about at the beginning of the show, that's one of the things we discussed. And these were relatively older women. They're 40s.
Are you hanging out with old people now?
40s. That's young. I could be some of them. I could be their moms,
Okay.
right? But from 40 to 75, right? And the conversation led a lot to what is it all about? When you reach a certain age, what I think people begin to reconsider.
Perspective
But
of life changes drastically.
You can't tell young people that, because I guess everybody has to experience it for themselves.
Yeah.
But as you get older, you begin to think, why do you really need to work? And we were talking about the differences in Europe. Like everyone in Europe, it's a little bit different. I think in the North American countries, we tend to work more.
In the North American
and we
countries,
vacation less.
it's the slave driver's mentality. Work, get as much out of them as possible. It
And
doesn't
then
matter who you are.
And you
Pay
die.
as little as you can, get as much as you can. So that's what it is. And there are two stages in your life when you really have you start looking at life differently. I think the first time is when you have kids.
Right.
And then the second time is when you become a matured adult. You start to look at life differently.
Well, hopefully that would have happened before you had kids.
Well,
Possibly.
yeah, but it's not everybody, right? Because as you get older, a lot has matured in your life.
Yeah.
Right. So
hopefully
that time that you're talking about before you get married to become matured, that's a level of maturity that you still have a long way to go. There's still a learning curve.
Yeah.
But when you get to that stage, where you're now recognizing, okay, I only have a few more years to live,
Yeah.
your outlook on life starts to change.
Well, right now, I'm thinking I'm going to reset again, because with the coming of AI, I believe that's going to give us an opportunity to live much longer. But we won't get into it.
Yeah.
What's the next email say?
Andrew says, hi to F and J. Thank you for that. So glad that this topic is coming up today. It's the season for idiots coming out. We all need to take a chill pill and remember our fellow man with manners, respect, and courtesy. Thank you very much for reminding us of that.
And you know what?
Thank
I
you.
want to add to that, Andrew. It's not just people, it's countries, it's governments.
Yes, governments.
It's the countries at war. Like
Yeah.
we need to, as a world, we need to really, I listened to you sent me that link with the president from Burkina Faso.
Yeah.
At the UN,
Mhm.
the UN
Yeah, you give a
speech.
very, very powerful speech.
Folks, if
Yeah.
you have time to just go, President of Burkina Faso, his United Nations speech.
Yeah.
It is as good as the Martin Luther King speech.
Yeah,
I
you
thought
really
it was
hit
that good.
hit it on the head, and
Right. And so was the from Barbados.
from Barbados as well.
Right. And I think if people really, it is, the world is coming to a time where everything needs to be reset.
Everything.
Right.
And
for
this
the
is really,
advantage
yeah,
and the
and-
less advantage.
And this is a time. This is it.
All the playing field. Sorry to talk over you. Go ahead.
I don't know if that is going to happen in my lifetime, but we need to start somewhere.
Mhm.
And as we said earlier, this period,
Mhm.
this change, this energetic change that we're going into now,
Mhm.
right through until next spring,
Yes.
it's really a time for inward reflection
Mhm.
by each and every single person, right?
Yeah.
Take time out,
yes.
take time out to reflect on your spiritual self and try to make that connection.
And we have some other strategies as well, because we did
Yeah.
promise some other strategies. But let's
Now-
finish up with the emails.
And Dan says,
Yeah.
wow, Fred is an astronomer, learning a lot. Hi to the jumper.
All right.
So I'm the astronomer and you're the jumper. Okay, thank you for that one, Dan.
Okay.
Tommy says, amen to the topic. Enjoy. Thank you, Tommy. And I'm just going to get to two more and then I'm going to go back.
Mhm.
Alexander
You sent
says,
your treats.
sent me a treat.
But you're changing that now, right? You're giving up
Well,
the cookies.
I was never a candy person.
No.
I mean, I like sweets, but not sweet. I have a sweet tooth, but
Yeah.
not
Yeah, but
candy.
you don't have a sweet tooth. You have a very sweet
No,
tooth.
don't lie to the
But
public.
anyway.
Don't lie to the public. Tina, thank you. Enjoying the LG Health Show today. Thank you
Okay.
very much for that.
Today and every day.
Today and
right?
every day,
Okay,
right?
wonderful.
Enjoy it, enjoy it, enjoy. And folks, if you're joining us for the first time, or you just joining us late, we are the Coxes. This is the Liquid Green Health Show, and of course, it's coming to you via Reality Radio 101,
Mhm.
and you can catch the show in its entirety. You can catch it on YouTube.
Mhm.
You can also catch it on Spotify. Just
Yes.
type in Liquid Green Health Show. And on Spotify, you're just going to get the audio version. On YouTube, you'll get the live.
Yeah.
version.
And we're just going to mention
Mhm.
that we're just about finishing up, doing the final touches
Yes.
on a new website,
Yeah.
the Liquid Green Health Show. We'll have our brand new website
And
where we'll post a lot.
all of the stuff
you
from
know.
the show is going to be on that. So it's going to be a lot easier for you to go to one page and you get everything on that, right? Rather than going to YouTube and having to search. So we're just making it a lot easier
Mhm.
for our listeners. Now, anything else you want to talk about?
Well, we did promise that we're
Mhm.
going to talk about some of the strategies.
Yeah.
So if you're going through, let me see, I have some notes here. If you're going through SAD,
Mhm.
right? Then the things that we need to change, like we talked about the circadian rhythm,
Mhm.
right? And the fact that it affects so much of the things that we would normally do.
Yeah.
So one of the things that's really important is for everything that we do in terms of maintaining optimal health, it's sleep,
Mhm.
nutrition,
Yeah.
and exercise.
I think sleep is number one.
Right now,
Sleep.
especially
But that has
getting-
been a challenge for me because for some reason I find that I am not going to sleep as early as I should.
and
2,
guess
3
what?
o'clock in the morning, I'm still up. But I don't eat.
So here we talk about the circadian rhythm.
Yeah.
We have to try and establish patterns.
And that's why I'm putting on weight.
We have to establish patterns. We have to have your room darkened, especially with the fall, with the changes.
Mhm.
And where our nephew lives in Fort St. John,
Yeah.
I mean, they wake up in the dark, come home and they go to bed and it's still dark.
It's still dark.
And you
yeah.
go further north and it's dark morning, noon, and night.
Yes.
I can't even imagine the depression, right? But the suggestion, what the psychologists will tell you, is that you're trying to normalize your life.
Mhm.
So even though the nights are getting longer
Yeah.
and your days, you wake up and it's like your brain is not in gear because your brain is expecting
Mhm.
there's to be light,
Yeah.
breakfast and your routine.
Mhm.
But that doesn't happen anymore. So your brain is actually out of whack. And it has to do with the cortisol gets less.
Okay.
And cortisol is the flight hormone.
Mhm.
And as that gets less, that is what we need to give us that bounce and wake you up in the mornings.
So that
And that gets depleted during these times.
yes.
And then your brain is out of whack. And that's one of the issues. So what you have to try to do is to normalize your life. Try and set the same time. What time do you go to bed? Try and wake up
Mhm.
and try and get the same amount of hours sleep. And we know that should be at least 7 hours, right?
Well, it all depends. 7 hours,
depends
5 hours.
on-
Depends on how
That's
much you're
about
doing.
average. That's
Right.
about average.
Yeah.
And the next thing is your food.
Okay. What about
What
the
do
food?
you need to try again to eat. Now, so many people are talking about the timed eating or intermittent eating.
Okay.
And that seems to be working for a lot of people. Again, during these winter months, what do we tend to do?
Eat a lot.
We eat a lot more,
Yeah, but
right? We
because
tend
you
to
have
eat a lot more and we
'cause you-
tend to exercise less.
yeah.
And therefore, that's one of the things that happens. You're going to start
You
seeing
put on
weight
weight.
gain,
Put on weight.
right?
How
And
many
the
times have you
depression.
heard people after the winter,
Mhm.
early spring, oh, I gotta, I have to lose weight.
Right. So by the time January rolls around, that's when the gyms get full,
Yeah.
right? And so it's really important, folks, especially folks who are bipolar, are the ones who tend to get depressed.
Mhm.
I know that on a really cloudy day, when you haven't left your house all day, it does get depressing. You
It
feel
could
that?
be. Yeah. It
Right?
could be. Yeah.
So we need to, one of the things we talk about are plants.
Yes. The poor plants, the plants, they become stunted.
Yeah,
They don't grow.
But plants in nature, like we need to go outside,
Yes.
not because it's cold. You can dress for the winter.
Oh, you're
Right? Or
you're referring to plants in the house?
Well, in the house,
Yeah.
when you bring them in, because there's a certain benefits we get from plants.
Supposed to.
Just like you get benefits from pets, you do get benefits from plants. They
Depends on the
increase
house.
Oxygen.
And then the reason I'm saying that,
Mhm.
I've been into some houses where they have lots of plants.
Mhm.
And occasionally, if you rub your hand on the leaf, they're full of dust. So there's no benefit there.
But Frederick,
The plants are dying.
You're always so extremist.
No, but
Why
it's
do you
true.
always
Many,
have to see?
okay, how many?
Why do
how
you
many
always have
often-
to see the glass as being half empty?
Because it is half
I'm
empty.
talking about plants. You go into somebody's house.
It is supposed to. It is supposed to be beneficial to your
It
health.
is beneficial.
Yes, if the plants are treated properly. How many offices have you gone into and seen
there's
plants? The plants they're dying.
But okay, you know what?
So that's not
There's-
beneficial at all.
There's a certain type of plants. For example, we have the Spanish thyme,
Yeah.
the herbs, the oregano, and
Yes.
the basil.
Mhm.
Those kind of things in your home. They're small,
Yeah.
so you're not going to have them covered with dust. And I say, why do you always have to look at?
No, that's not
negative
extreme.
things?
You're going to many offices you're going to that have beautiful plants that, they are murderers. They're killing the plants. That's what they're doing.
I don't know if I want to get into that with you.
Anyway,
But
now this
but
is a
plants
season.
bring a benefit.
Yes,
and
they should bring a benefit
that's
if
indoors.
treated properly.
But outdoors, we need to try and reconnect. That's
Yes.
one of the important things we have to do, is to get outside into the sunshine.
Yes.
And I mean, it's going to be a half an hour walk if it's a really nice, hot, sunny day. Not hot,
Cold
but
days.
cool, but sunny day.
Yes.
And if it's not a sunny day, you may have to walk 2 hours to get the benefits. Nobody wants to walk 2 hours in the cold. But the point is, we really need to get out there. And for me, that's hard. Right? I'd rather go to the Y and walk in the winter
In the winter, you're better
than
off
go
going, yeah.
outside and walk.
Get on the elliptical
Right.
machine, or on the treadmill, and
But
just bring up that energy, raise that energy, because you need it.
But one of the most exhilarating things, it's not for fall. Gary mentioned it. It's just going for that drive and seeing the leaves. People make
There's beauty in the fall season.
they make a pilgrimage
Yes.
of driving through the families. I know we have done it, and just seeing those fall colors.
It's beautiful.
And the same in winter. What is more beautiful? I wish everybody in the tropics could see this.
No, for me, the best time. Yeah.
I wish everybody could see that beautiful, fresh snowfall.
No,
I remember my first, I'm not done. And then you feel so elated. You want to go outside, you want to play in it, you want to eat it. But that's what. 2 days later, I know that's what you're gonna say, right? The mud and the slush.
Yes, 2
and
days
then it's
later,
depressing and you want
nasty.
you
No,
want to go for
The
a
best,
trip
the
to the
best,
tropics.
the most beautiful time for me
Mhm,
in the winter
Yeah.
is when you get a nice storm
Oh,
and the
yes.
sun
Oh,
comes
yes,
out
yeah,
immediately after.
Mhm.
Beautiful, right? That's,
Yeah.
that's picturesque.
But do you know that there's actually a therapy that you can use? It's called a light therapy. And they
Okay.
talk about Lux,
Mhm,
Lux.
mhm,
And they said, if you buy one, it's a machine. It's like a box,
Yeah.
and you can keep it on your desk. Comes in different sizes,
mhm,
and it ranges between 25,000 to 10,000 lux.
Okay.
That means how much of this do you get directly?
All right.
It's how much light. It's artificial light. It's not a tanning station,
All right.
but it's artificial light. And apparently this is used to treat people who
Okay.
have SAD,
Okay.
right? And it works. Gary, do you know anything about that?
Say that again. I didn't sure I was following you.
Okay, it's a machine, and it's
It's like a light.
used
It's
Oh, you mean for the
light therapy treatment.
yeah, I know all about that. Yeah, I didn't understand what you were saying.
Okay.
I have one at home, and I tried it, but I find a really good strong light in the room is almost just
That's
as
good.
effective.
just as good.
Yeah, you get
Okay.
a really good strong and use daylight color as opposed to tungsten,
Right.
and
Okay.
it simulates more of an outside kind of light, eh?
And I
Right.
think how that light works,
Mhm.
you set it, it has an alarm, and it will come on a few minutes before the alarm, probably 15, 20 minutes
That's
before
a
the
different
alarm
type.
goes
Yeah,
off.
right. That's a
And,
different
and,
type.
and so you get that feeling of the sunrise.
But therapists use this
Yeah.
to treat people with bipolar and people who are depressed. And this is supposed to really help them. But as Mike, I don't have one. You said you have one and it doesn't work that well.
Well,
Go
yeah,
figure.
I find a
Right.
good strong LED light is just as effective, if not more, because it
Well,
lights up the whole room, and I think to me that makes me feel better when the room is bright as opposed to
Yeah.
a lamp in my face. I don't know. It's just
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what I
yeah.
see.
It makes sense, right?
Yeah, because a lot of people in general, if you notice, people have very bad lighting in their houses.
Yeah.
So they're stuck in the winter and they got this bad lighting, and like in a subconscious kind of way, it does have an effect on you.
That's right.
Yeah, so if you have these nice bright lights and it's like a good color, good, nice, bright, white outside kind of light,
Right.
it makes a difference.
Yes. And apparently they say in the mornings, you should like bathe in this light in the mornings, like bathe yourself. And at the same time in the mornings. And that if you use too much of it, then it can have the reverse effect.
So it's best to
So-
use sunlight.
That's right. Go for a walk.
Let's go outside for a walk.
Yeah.
Get a nice shot of
Okay.
cold wind. Now this is a season that brings on a lot of physical change,
Mhm.
and it as we've been saying, it causes a lot of mental,
Mhm.
upset. I look at it as the mixed feelings.
Mhm.
It's like what's the word I'm looking for? It's like a mixed salad, right? You're in a pressure cooker, right? That's not a salad.
Okay.
No, not the salad. You're in a pressure cooker,
Yes.
right? And you're under a lot of stress
Right.
mentally, and you're fighting to get out of it, and you can't get out. And you have to find ways of, how am I going to get out from under this pressure,
Right.
right? How am I going to do it? Some of the ways that can help is by talking to others.
Great.
You have a friend.
Right.
You can have a friend where you can
Social.
sit down, have social interaction with one or two different people, or just one friend, where you can talk about the way you feel. Because a lot of times
That's
when you
why we have
internalize,
spouses, right?
no, spouses are no good. No.
I was just about to give you a compliment. Oh
No,
boy, yeah.
but a lot of people
spouses.
internalize things,
Mhm.
and it's that internalizing of situations that can cause a lot of problem,
Yes.
right?
And you know how one of the best ways to counteract that is the mindfulness, is the breathing.
Yes, mindful
Right.
breathing, very, very good.
Like,
And it's something that should be taught from a very young age.
Yeah. we've started with Maxwell. We've encouraged Kira to do meditations
Yes.
with the
Yeah.
grandchildren, and he loves it. But
But hold on,
breathing.
let me just finish my
Okay.
thought with the salad. The
Go ahead.
the salad, the reference of the salad is a reference to the amount or the number of thoughts that you get. It's like a
Right,
mix,
it's nonstop.
mixed salad. It's just
Right.
nonstop.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a mix.
So you done?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Caesar salad.
So can I say something sensible now? I don't know if I got your salad.
Okay,
imagery,
I try.
but
My listeners did.
I'm sure they did. I am sure they always get what Fred says,
Yeah.
right? But the breathing, one of the techniques, and I have tried this. There is a type of breathing, and it's called physiological sigh.
Okay.
And that you know when babies cry,
Yeah.
and they
go into that
they go
long
long,
pause.
and then
that
they go
pause.
the
Yes.
double breath.
Yes.
Apparently, that is supposed to be really helpful. It's like a double inhale, and then you do a long exhale.
So who's going to
And
do that? That's under
supposed
stress.
to be a perfect way to relieve stress. Believe it or not, try it.
No, but well, I'm not under stress. So who under stress is going to remember that?
No, but this is when you go into meditation. What I'm saying is, this is just one of the techniques that if people were to try it,
Yeah.
it would work.
In meditation.
Yes, if you're going into your breathing first before you get into your deep meditation,
Yeah.
you always start breathing.
Yeah, you start
And this
deep.
is one of the types of breathings, right? Because what does breathing do? It really helps you to disengage your mind,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
And when it's like, as you were just saying, we have endless thoughts, we have nonstop
Yeah.
activity, we can't stop.
Mhm.
But if you can try to sit quietly, and to me, this is what meditation is. You'll try to let go of the thinking, the desires that come up, let go, right? And
It's controlling the conscious mind. Basically, that's what you're trying to do.
yes, because we're trying to retreat into
Yeah.
the subconscious mind.
Yes.
And that is where we're going to get the most help during these trying days, right? And I think one of the big things we need to do, we need to make promises to ourselves,
Yes.
because
Which is
that's
very
a
good.
big,
Yeah.
and we need not to break them. How many times have you and I said, oh, you know what, we're going to do this, we're going to do
Numerous
that.
times. Numerous times.
And it takes one day,
Yep.
and then you forget.
Distraction.
Mhm.
Distraction is what causes it.
Another
And
thing-
that's another way of realigning yourself,
Yes.
getting back
Mhm.
into realignment with self. And when I say self, I'm referring to your spiritual entity, getting
Correct.
back into real alignment with that.
And-
That is knowing yourself,
Yeah.
not the superficial way of knowing, oh, I know myself and that's, and I'm no. When you know yourself spiritually,
Mhm.
then you can conquer
And
anything.
you can live with
You
yourself.
can live with yourself.
Yes.
And
And
that's one.
we're coming to the end, but I also want to mention something that I know that I do, and I do it as regularly as I can. I used to do it daily for a few years, then I kind of fell off the bus. But gratitude journaling, where you write every single
Yeah.
day, you write something
Thank
that
you.
you're
Thankful for.
grateful for,
Yeah.
right? And it just takes a few minutes and you write something down.
Yeah.
And then you, during your life, if you try,
Very
no
good
matter
point. Very,
what
very
happens
good
to
point.
you,
Yes.
no matter how awful the thoughts or the things that have been done to us. And you know what, when you speak to other people, and we think we have challenges in our lives, but when you talk to some other people, it is amazing, some of the stresses,
Yeah.
some of the things that kids go through, that parents have put them through, some of the things that spouses put each other through.
Yeah.
Right. So what we have to try and do, I believe, is to try not to worry as much as we do. We have to, especially if it's something that you cannot control, you're gonna have to just learn to
You have to embrace it. You have to
learn to just let it go.
know what it is, embrace it,
Mhm.
and see what happens,
Yeah.
from there. Take notes. How about music and
Oh.
reading a book or something for relaxation?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
those work. Reading, I know for you it's music.
Yep.
For me, you know what it is.
Netflix.
I love my movies.
Netflix.
But sometimes it's like, depends on what it is. A good romance will be soothing.
Yeah.
But for me, a horror movie is also soothing. And what else we do? I think one of the things as fall approaches, and we're talking about the darker
Or
side.
in the fall.
That I'm saying, as the season approaches,
Yes.
and we are getting into the winter
Mhm.
of our discontent.
Yes.
A lot of people reflect on their own lives and on death. Do you know how many people fear dying? Look at the
Yeah.
skydive. You know how many friends told me, Janet, that's when it got canceled. That's probably not a good sign.
But that is because most of us, if not all, have been taught to be fearful of something that you don't know of, fearful of death.
Mhm.
Death is being portrayed as such a bad thing. Oh, you're gonna die and
But
blah blah blah.
everybody has to die.
You gotta go.
And
That's the whole concept of life. It's
Right.
birth and
Birth, living, and death.
yeah, that's the whole thing.
So as fall approaches and it starts to get dark,
Yeah.
a lot of people,
You're going to this
we're
dead
approaching
season.
the sunset of our lives.
Yes.
And I'm looking forward to the sunset of my life, like the big birthday. But I figure I should still have at least another 30 years, right? Well, it depends.
Depends on who you're living with,
It
man.
depends on who I'm living. I'm just looking at you and thinking.
Don't look at me, right? Look at me.
But I think we've covered just about everything we wanted to talk about. Right?
Overall, though, for everyone, it is helpful to remember that this whole thing about life and the seasons and the the rhythm and everything, the whole rhythm is a
Cycle.
continuous cycle
Mhm.
that dies and then it regenerates itself, and fall is just one of those seasons
Mhm.
that it's here, it's going to come again, it's going to go, and as long as you're alive, you're going to experience
Mhm.
fall, winter, summer.
Right.
So it's nothing to be worried about, nothing to be afraid of, because it's just part of life. And when you understand it, as I said, when you have that knowledge, well, okay, this is just a season, this is what happens in this season, you're going to be able to deal with it, right?
And better is always coming.
And this is where knowledge is power.
Yes, this too
will pass. This too will pass,
Okay.
right? So we have to understand that.
Yeah.
And don't allow yourselves to be distracted, because this can cause various types of emotions. Your feelings are going to change, your emotions are going to get disrupted. So don't allow these things to be a distraction to you. Embrace life with joy and embrace life with vigor. Embrace life. Live as if it is your last day. Right? That's what you got to do. Live, enjoy. Whether you have money or not, As long as you're alive, it's a gift.
Right.
As long as you're alive, it's a gift. And so we have to
It's
understand.
like that saying, how to make God laugh.
Plan.
Tell him about your plan
Tell him
for
about your
tomorrow.
Right. So
And that's with that, I will rest my case.
let us embrace the beauty of fall and learn to navigate its challenges with a sense of calm and resilience.
Amen.
And
I
with
like
that, I would
that.
like to end today's show by saying good health is central to human happiness and well-being. It contributes significantly to prosperity and wealth and even economic progress. As healthy individuals, we can be more productive and may even live a little bit longer. So folks, thank you for listening. Until next Sunday, same time, same place. This is Janet and Fred Cox saying, let's stay healthy on Reality Radio 101.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to the Liquid Green Health Show with your hosts, Fred and Janet Cox, right here on Reality Radio 101.